Hey y'all. I know it's been a long time since I've done a video, but it's just been a first crazy quarter and like being a first gen graduate. First gen grad in a grad program. So I just submitted my first lit review for my class that is Idea of Black Arts. And my topic was more on like the resistance, revolution, and progression for Black presence in museum sphere. I was super excited to write about that because, you go to museums. Well, I'm an avid museum goer. And so whenever I go to museums, I'm like, okay, where are the Black artists at? And you don't always see them, like, depending on where you are in the country when you go and travel, or when I go and travel, I don't see that many Black artists on display. And then you also have to keep in mind, like, how are they being displayed? Is this high art? Are they, like, thinking of it as, like, a lower art form? So that's what I put into my essay, and it was pretty good. Like, I'm excited for it to get graded. I'm excited for feedback on it. And I guess I'm just doing this video because I'm like, y'all can watch me get ready, and get ready with me while I guess I talk about my lit review. Alright, so I haven't done a face mask in a minute, so I'm gonna do one right now. This is the brand. While I was doing my research, I'm finding sources for the lit review. First off, my professor recommended like 3 books. The first one was Exhibiting Blackness by Bridget R. Cooks. And then the second one was Mounting Frustration. That one talks about exhibiting Black art too. And then the third one was Subject to Display, which was a little controversial. I didn't like the title, and then I don't like how she put the chapters, just because she like was talking about certain artists, and I'm like, okay, so your book is subject to display. We're talking about artists, so are you seeing these artists as subjects? Controversial, as I did not like it. And so those 3 books. But like, what inspired me to write this topic, or write on this topic, was just when I did another assignment for the class, I found the Women's Art Journal, and there was an article about LACMA and how these women artists were protesting the LACMA because all they did was display white male artists. And I was like, wow, I didn't know this was ever a problem, And it really had me thinking, like, well, is there like more controversial stuff in LA, across the nation? And yeah, there were. There still is, but most of it like started in the 60s when we're talking about like the civil rights era and the Black Power movement and the Black arts movement. And like, I don't think museums got a lot of heat for that, except for like a few major events and exhibitions that are going on. So it's just really interesting to read about that. Because, like, I love museums, I like going to museums, and I love art, so it's just like, what? not the art world being problematic. And of course, like, when we're living in the United States and, you know, everything is built on the idea of anti-blackness and the ways in which black people were brought into this country and used during slavery. So, just things to think about when we're talking about other institutions that were created in the United States. Like, anything after that is gonna have roots of racism, anti-blackness, subjection. So, yeah, it is a very interesting topic. Yeah, so, I had to wait for this to sit for like 5 minutes. Trying to think what else. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so in my paper I talked about the roots in which, like, you can't talk about the institution of museums without talking about the racism that created this institution. So that was one thing. Two, I talked about segregation and, like, some of the display is reciprocal in separating black art from other types of art, and just exhibiting them in a way that's not coherent at all. Like, you're gonna group all the black people together, but the space you put them in, like, they're not in conversation with one another. It's just like, oh yeah, all these artists belong in this one room because they're all black. But, like, not all black people want to be, like, put into that category of black art. Like, what is black art? But yeah, so that was one of the things I talked about as well. And then, trying to think. Oh, and then it was funny. I watched this YouTube video, Bridget Cook's, and A Fear of a Black Planet was the idea of this talk she put on for the YouTube channel. And I think she had this talk more than once. So, anywho, she was talking about how there's still, like, resistance and pushback to including black people in museum spaces, particularly in, like, hiring. So when you go to museums, you'll realize, like, the black people are mostly, like, security, and, like, they're in the exhibition spaces, and they're just security. There's not a lot of black people doing curatorial stuff, or, like, the directors of the museum, or presidents or anything like that. So she was talking about how there's controversy there, and then just another, like, thing that was brought up in her YouTube video was oh yeah, backlash. So, like, a lot of these directors are doing, like, saying some controversial stuff, or doing controversial stuff like deleting posts of an ex-employee who's black, who's saying, like, hey, you're not even talking about the death of George Floyd. And then there was also, like, this museum in Indianapolis that, like, had a job posting saying, hey, like, we're looking for someone who upholds the white values. This is the position for the director of the museum. And he had to resign because, like, on one hand, he's talking about, like, oh, we want to uphold these standards of whiteness. And then on the other, they're saying, hey, like, we want to have diversity and stuff. So it's, like, controversial views. Like, oh, you want diversity, but you also want to uphold these, like, white standards. So it's, like, what are we really talking about here, you know? And like, how do you want to display that in the museum sphere? And oh, I gotta rinse my face. Yeah, so I didn't know these problems were like ongoing or like let alone that they existed prior. So I really enjoyed like researching that. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm an avid museum goer, but I didn't know there is racism embedded in this ish, you know. Um, and then like when they do exhibit black artists, they're not really like put they're not really put into like these modes where like the methodology of how they're displaying them is very problematic most of the time. It's more in an anthropological like discovery sense versus like just letting the artist stand on their own as artists. Like they put all this supplemental material in there, which is not necessary. Like it's not. I mean, it's they're totally separate from each other. Like the information that's given in the artwork that's put on display, like those can be like totally separate because it's not really letting the artwork speak for itself. Like people can do that research on their own. Um, which sometimes the museum doesn't really let people do. They're like, okay, this is how you should interpret it. Well, no, art is subjective. Like, you want people to have their own experience for themselves and, like, figure out what that means to them. Like, you don't want all this supplemental information given to you or just like, here, take this. Like, they're just feeding it to you. So you gotta be mindful of like when you're going into museum spaces and being like, oh yeah, like I should definitely think about what is being given to me and like how this information's being like put out there. Um, and yeah, like I just feel like more black art needs to be normalized, which it's not, because a lot of people are still like, this is the first kind of exhibition for itself. Like, I've never seen this before, and I just don't think that's sustainable in the direction this country seems like it wants to go. If we want to be all inclusive and diversifying, sorry, this is what I'm using. Unseen sunscreen, a little sample. Um, yeah, I just think we need to display more artists of color and normalize that and should be on permanent display, not just every few years we put these exhibitions on to satisfy a cultural need. Like it's not sustainable and shouldn't have to go to like African American museum, be like, okay, this is what I wanted to see. Like, no, it should be in every museum, like, no matter what. So, yeah, so I'm like, sometimes maybe separate is equal in these instances. Like, if, like, I'm going to go to this cultural museum, ethnic museum, this is what I'm gonna get because this is what I want. Just like, just going to a museum and just like seeing the art and like not getting what you are looking for. So I don't know, like yes and no. I think black art needs to be displayed everywhere in ethnic museums and in regular museums. It just needs to be normalized. It shouldn't just be this like happenstance of culture. Um, and I think that's what I put in my lit review. Um, I think that's it. Oh yeah. So I put my hair up, but also wanted to mention take my dogs on a walk right now. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Um, yeah, hopefully I'll have more videos soon. But yeah, this last video was unneeded. um, walk, 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 walk. Pick up Stitch. We're going on a walk, 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 walk. Walk, 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 walk. He's so annoyed. Look at him. He's just a little boy. He's just a sweetish of boy. And he's ready to go on a walk. And he's wetty. He's been wetty. You wetty? He's wetty. He's wetty. Okay, bye guys.